Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, what is it? Good morning. It's still morning. It'll be afternoon before we're done. I just want to say hello, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to do this with us. Our number one job as a city is public safety. And so the opportunity to select a police chief is something that's absolutely critical for us as a community. It's one of the most important things that any city does. I think it's more important in St. Paul even, because we're in the unique space of saying when we select a police chief, we're selecting someone for 6 years. And that's important. It's an incredible opportunity for us, and it's an incredible responsibility. You know our mantra that when we do important big things, we have to do it together. My belief is that our disparities that we have in our state and our city are built on exclusive decision-making processes. That is, every decision is made to benefit the decision maker. And so for me to disappear in my office and make decisions by myself would be more of the same and not a path to a fundamentally different future. That's why we have to engage community members anytime the conversation is important. I want to start by acknowledging the staff people in our city of St. Paul. First, I want to start by acknowledging, I know we have several current and former police officers in the room, and also civilian staff for our police department. Would you all wave your hands so we can give you a round of applause? Thank you for your work. I know we have several members of our Human Resources Department, our Mayor's Office, and other city departments who have supported this search, and as well as our media team. Would all of our city employees in the room please raise your hand so we can clap for you? Thank you. Some of our team isn't raising their hand. And our forum last night, the biggest feedback that I got from folks so far has been people telling me they would hate to be in my shoes because we have got 5 incredible candidates who are finalists. We have an incredible job, so I want to thank the examining committee that was chaired by former council president Kathy Lantry, and also Sasha Cotton, a community member who's been here and in this space for a really long time, for their work. Anybody in here who was on that, we appreciate your work, and I resent you for giving me the difficult task of trying to get from 5 really incredible finalists down to a final appointment. Fortunately, we have the opportunity to take our time and make sure that we get that right. And one of the reasons we had that opportunity is because our city is so very well served by our interim chief, Jeremy Ellison, who has done an incredible job on behalf of our city. Please give our interim chief a round. And with that said, I'm excited because this is a room full of people who didn't come to hear me talk at all. And so we're going to jump right into our conversation. I'm going to ask the first few questions that we've provided to the candidates in advance. There's opportunities for you there's a barcode on your sheet that you can submit a question, or for those folks who prefer the old-fashioned way, I think there's somebody around here with some note cards if you want to write down a question on a note card and turn it in. I'm confident that we won't get a chance to ask every single question that you submit, and I'm also confident that one thing that we'll all have in common today is that we'll end conversations quicker than we want. And so all of our candidates have agreed to make themselves available a little bit after this, after the kind of stage portion of this conversation is over, if there's follow-up conversation or questions or anything like that. Let's get going. We're going to start by asking each of our candidates to provide a brief introduction of themselves so that we know who they are and what makes them interested in being the police chief in the most incredible city on the planet. And then we'll jump into our questions. I will start from my left and we'll go to my right with Assistant Chief Stacy Murphy.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all very much for coming out. Thank you. So we'll try this again. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stacy Murphy. I am currently the Assistant Chief with the St. Paul Police Department. I've been with our department for a little over 20 years. I've had a number of opportunities throughout my career. I started out in patrol, which all of us do. I worked in all 3 of our districts. I got promoted to sergeant. I worked investigations, a variety of different administrative positions. As a commander, I oversaw our training unit, so the day-to-day operations of our academy, our brand new recruits that come through our department, and all the training from our entire department. Then I got promoted under Chief Axtell to Deputy Chief of the Community Engagement Division, and now under Chief Axtell, the Assistant Chief, like I said, running the day-to-day operations of our department, which includes overseeing our $120 million budget and a variety of different grant opportunities. I've developed our racial equity curriculum training that we started back in 2015. I did that for a number of different years, and that's who I am.
We're going to just pass these along.
Commander Axel Henry.
Well, I'll just use this one. Ooh, that's a little loud. Hello, my name is Axel Henry, and I'm a commander with the St. Paul Police Department. My current assignment is I'm in charge of the St. Paul Narcotics Unit, which includes the Violent Crime Enforcement Team and the Human Trafficking Task Force. I was born and raised in the city of St. Paul, and I'm a proud graduate of Webster Magnet Grade School, which is now called Barack and Michelle Obama, Murray Junior High, and Central High School. I mention those things because although I have master's degrees and been to the FBI Academy, I think those experiences as a young person growing up as a product of this city really helped define the person I am. I live in St. Paul with my beautiful partners who are in the back there, who's probably going to duck now, but we live together in the city of St. Paul. I've had 12 years experience as a commander. I've worked in every major division we have in the city, including being the XO for the first female chief of police in St. Paul. My work has been something that I've been very proud of. I'm very proud to be invested in the city, to be from this city. I love St. Paul. I'm from St. Paul. I live in St. Paul, and I look forward to the opportunity to work in a greater capacity for the city and for the people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'll go to my right, starting with Senior Commander Kurt Halstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Kurt Halstrom. I'm the current Senior Commander of the Eastern District. I've worn several hats in the city over the years. Senior Commander of Special Operations and the Eastern District obviously are the ones that are most recent. But I think it's more important to tell you all why I want to, why I'm interested in being the Chief of St. Paul. Building beyond what our predecessors have set us up for success on. We have a very honored tradition of chiefs and leadership here at the City of St. Paul. I can think of no better honor than to try to follow up and build upon what they have set for us as standards. It's not the status quo. We set the bar very high at the City of St. Paul, and to take and be given an opportunity to serve the community and just build and continue to be innovators in law enforcement and what we mean to you, to the community, and what the community means to us. Thank you.
And Commander Pamela Barron.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for taking your time to come here and meet all your candidates for police chief. I appreciate you being here. I want to congratulate the finalists for being here as well. My name is Pamela Berrigan, and I have been in the police department for the last 26 years. I am grateful to my family, to God, and to my friends for their support, but I'm very grateful to the city that have embraced me and has given me a home for the last 31 years. And I am very proud that I will be able to work with you and my officers and represent my officers with dignity in all the efforts that we're going to do together. And in every assignment that I have had, I have the opportunity to meet different people. I have led my officers, I have worked closely with my coworkers, and I have always made hard decisions that sometimes were not popular, but were needed. This is what you will get from me. As your chief, I am accountable, I am collaborative, sorry about that. I'm compassionate and I choose. I show trust. I'm a little nervous, sorry. I know, I need to slow down. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis.
Hello, St. Paul. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis. I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. I was born and raised there. I'm actually from the city's largest, poorest, most isolated, and arguably most dangerous housing projects. And through that experience, I have managed to become a positive product of that environment. For the past 25 years, I have honorably served 1.5 million residents and visitors in the city of Philadelphia by way of the Philadelphia Police Department. I've worked in many bureaus: patrol, investigations, training, special assignment from Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey, whom we all call the God Chief, and I was successful in implementing his Department of Justice reforms. In addition, I currently work in the Standards and Accountability Bureau. In addition to my work experience, I am a triplicate degree holder in criminal justice, education, and public administration. I utilize my information. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you put your hand up? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you didn't?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to, I'm sorry. I will just say in closing that if selected to be your chief, I will be an authentic, active, visible, and intentional servant and transformational leader who is committed to collaborative reform and forwarding this city's mission of social equity and safety for all.
Thank you very much. I would start with our next question. We will start with Commander Henry, and we'll rotate through from there. And the question is, how do you define public safety, and what do you see as the most promising practice or idea in policing today?
Quick mic check, it's working. Well, I think the definition really lies in the question itself. I think that public safety is safety that is created by the public. We come together and work as a group. I think all too often what we hear is police and community relations, and what that infers is that the police aren't a part of the community, and we are, and we need to be. We need to work together in a way that really brings forth answers and solutions that are co-produced. We're coming together and coming up with our ideas and our solutions that work for our city, our neighborhoods, and our people. We could put an example of this is we could put a police officer on every corner, but you wouldn't feel any safer. You'd feel like you were in a war zone. We need to get together and work with each other to make sure that we're creating situations and examples that work for everyone in our community. We need to get beyond community engagement to real community connections, real interlinking of resources, so that our folks and the people in the city are getting the things they need in ways they need from us. An example of this is I'm on the board of directors for Safe Summer Nights, which is a summer barbecue program we do. And we've now started to introduce real connections with the building and trades, credit unions, things like that. So people aren't just coming to engage with us, but they're coming to get real connections with resources that they can walk away with. Again, we need to co-produce the public safety we're looking for each other and be able to work together so that we're removing the division. All too often what we kind of hear in our society today is there are reasons why things won't work, and we need to remove that. We need to remember, our jobs are not to be hard. It's not that we're not tough on crime. We just don't want to be hard on communities, on individuals, and on neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senior Commander Halstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What my belief is in public safety is it's the government's purpose is to provide you, the citizens, with a general sense of safety in feeling, safety in your home, and a mental well-being. I think typically when people hear the words public safety, they're thinking of police, they're thinking of fire, and they're thinking of EMS. I think the most promising things about that definition, and where we go in the future is it's all-encompassing of all parts of government. It's not just the police department's, the EMS, and the fire department's responsibility to provide this security. We're going to attain that through collaborations and cooperation with Public Works, the Parks departments, clearly the mayor's office. Everybody has a piece of this public safety vision for the city of St. Paul. The most promising things, in my opinion, of where we are going in the future is alternative response models to the things that traditionally fall on the police departments and the fire departments to try to solve. Though we're really good, in my opinion, at doing some things, there are certainly entities and parts of our government that are probably better suited to address those. I'm not saying that the police department doesn't want to be part of it. We certainly do, but we certainly are not the solution to many of the problems that we're facing. We can be part of the solution, and there's things that we can be really good at that aren't traditionally thought of as law enforcement. When we do better, when we all do better. Thank you.
Commander Barry.
Thank you. Public safety is the protection of the public, and that is our all responsibility, not just the elected officials, not just the police department, or the people that we are in that position. That is a collaboration and a partnership with all of you that are here present, that took time to be here because this is important. So we can come up with strategic ideas and things that we can do. For example, the intelligent-led information that we can have those guidance so we can collect data and we can share that data with other entities in the city because we serve the same community, we serve the same people. So when we see a problem and we're sharing information, we will be able to reach to that person or to that family or to that community that each community might have different problems, right? And we have to address them differently because we cannot have a blanket solution for everybody. So having the knowledge of who are we serving and what are those topics that they are that they're close to the heart so that we can address those things. We have to focus on individual behavior. We can no longer do all saturated a neighborhood and have all those, the zero approach with zero tolerance. We cannot do that anymore because a community, not everybody that lives in a specific neighborhood, not everybody have criminal behavior. So having that intelligence data will help us to focus in, to zoom in the behavior that we need to correct.
Public safety is the equitable protections for all individuals so that they may have and live their best quality of life. I can most certainly tell you that the most promising practice from my experiences has been the use of 21st century policing, as the framework has been designed and developed in using an authentic approach and a collaborative governance approach from criminal justice officials and statewide community members. If 21st century policing responses are authentic, intentional, substantive, and not performative, they will yield promising results. And I'll give you an example. I usually work in standards and accountability, and although I work in standards and accountability, which is an administrative capacity, I'm still committed to the streets. So I started a partnership with an organization called the Institute for Community Justice, which is a reentry organization. So I visited the prisons, the state prisons, because there were individual inmates or residents who were actually coming home from work. And myself and ICJ collaborated to have a plan for those young men and older men who are coming out of prison to make sure that they do not re-enter into the system and that they do not become recidivists. So we understand that in this realm of public safety, we have to starve the criminal justice system. They cannot eat. Thank you.
Thank you. And Assistant Chief Murphy.
Thank you. So to me, public safety is ensuring a safe community for everyone to live, work, and visit. In St. Paul, we're very fortunate. We have a very safe community. There are things that we certainly need to continue to work on, but we do have a safe community. And a big part of that is because of the partnerships that we have with the community, the folks, again, that live and work here. We try really hard as a police department to listen to what works for different communities. What works in downtown might not work in Frogtown. So how can we mold the way that we police in different neighborhoods and different communities throughout St. Paul to make sure that we're delivering the best service that we possibly can? Having those partnerships and the ability to listen and find out what will work is really what sets us apart. The police department doesn't and won't have all the answers. So being able to reach out to people that have input and that can provide us direction on how to make the community more safe is really important. And I think that that's what sets us apart. I had talked about this a little bit last night, but there's a St. Paul way of doing things. And the St. Paul Police Department, in conjunction with the folks that live and work here, know what that means. It's serving the public, serving the community with our heart. It's showing up during the good times like Safe Summer Nights that Ax mentioned, but also when we do things that, were unintentional or something that where we messed up and we have to come out and apologize. There's a wide variety of different times, but as long as we're showing up and having those conversations and making sure that we're listening, that's what's most important.
Thank you very much. We'll start the next question with Senior Commander Halstrom. You guys have all, I'm blown away by the extent to which you guys have all been innovative leaders in public safety. I would love to hear from your perspective, what specific accomplishments or innovation are you most proud of personally, having been involved with as a law enforcement leader?
Well, first of all, one of the biggest accomplishments, in my opinion, is being selected in the top 5 of these candidates for this position. I'm extremely proud of the women and men of the St. Paul Police Department and the work that they've dedicated over the last, especially over the last few years. We have all been in, the world has changed drastically in front of us with COVID and civil unrest and the murder of George Floyd. The men and women of the St. Paul Police Department showed up every day. Being the senior commander of one of the 3 districts we have, I saw it every day, the dedication that the officers showed to the community. We weren't working from home. We were all showing up and putting on a uniform and getting out there every day. I'm grateful to be part of that family. The part of the benefits of the city of St. Paul is a small. It's a big town with a small field community. We all have a connectedness, is that the proper word, with each other. It's just very humbling to be sitting up here today speaking with you and have you come and want to hear what it is that I might have to say. Sometimes we take for granted the relationships that we have between the city and the community. Assistant Chief Murphy said it's the St. Paul way. It is the St. Paul way, and it's to be expected that we continue to provide trust and service with respect.
Thank you. Commander Berrigan?
Yeah, after 26 years of being in the city of St. Paul, working for St. Paul and living here for 31 years, just knowing that the community and knowing that the city is inclusive, knowing that it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter the color, skin, or who you are here and you belong here. One of the proudest things that I have as a police officer is that I'm able to make connections. I'm able to open spaces for people so their voices are being heard at the table. Sometimes we forget that underrepresented communities don't feel comfortable and they don't feel welcome. The city of St. Paul has so many things, so many programs and so many organizations and agencies that we are welcoming all those different approaches so we can be better, because together we're gonna be better. It's not about us against them. It's not about, you have more money and I don't have money, or you belong or you don't belong. It doesn't matter. It matters that we're here and we need to cooperate together. Proud moments in the police department have been to be able to get new people into police work, not just because we need more officers, but because they have a servant heart. And to be a police officer, you need to have a servant heart, especially for our city. Our city has high expectations. We know that our citizens deserve the best, and we have those approaches when we go and we talk to the people and we tailor whatever answer we need for the conversation, so we listen what they need from us.
Thank you. Dr. Bailey Davis.
Actions, not words. I can certainly tell you that for the past 26 years, nearly 26 years in my city, that I've been an effective, authentic, servant, and transformational leader. I am a woman of faith. I am proud to serve God in what I do. In fact, most people don't know, but I tell them that I'm living to the true element of my name, what my name means. My name is Jacqueline, which means may God protect. And I always tell people that I work with, whether it's the officers or it's the community members, if God is protecting me, I'm going to protect you. So with that being said, the most accomplishments that I feel is truly wholeheartedly investing my time, talent, truth, and treasure to my city, to the officers, to the community members. I have personally sacrificed my financial situation so others would not suffer. I've given a $50,000 fully funded Dow scholarship for Philadelphia residents to go to school. I've also provided a $25,000 endowment to University of Cincinnati in my alma mater in Ohio. In addition, I've had mentoring programs that actually helped officers to be, individuals, community members to become officers, as well as providing mental health training expenses for officers to be trained. So I look forward to hopefully being your next leader to protect and serve and make sure that we all stay protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assistant Chief Murphy.
So I've been very blessed throughout my career to have a variety of different opportunities and thus a number of accomplishments that I'm proud of. Anything from being the only female officer on our SWAT team to working with Kat Sarnicki, who's here today with the Port Authority as one of the project managers on our $18 million training facility, which our department had no training facility prior to that. That's been a huge improvement to our department and our ability to train our officers. I'm happy to say we came in on budget, in case anyone is wondering about that. I thought you'd like that, Mayor. But what I'm most proud of is, Pam alluded to this a little bit, we have a Law Enforcement Career Path Academy. It's a program that we started several years ago to really give folks in our community an opportunity, people that are from diverse communities, a lot of times low-income individuals who didn't see a pathway into law enforcement. This is an amazing career. Like I said, I've had a number of opportunities and I love what I do. I wouldn't change it for a minute. But during my time as the deputy chief, I worked, that was a grant-funded program, which meant we were really on the cycle of grants. If the grants didn't come through, we didn't have a program. So worked very closely with Mayor Carter's office to transition that from grant-funded to general fund dollars. That was a huge accomplishment because that means that program is sustainable now. We can have a pathway for young people in our own backyard here, homegrown talent right in St. Paul, to be able to have a pathway into law enforcement and become St. Paul officers here in our department.
Thank you. Commander Henry.
Well, thank you. I was sitting here as everyone was answering these questions, and it's really tough to struggle in a 27-year career trying to think about what thing best embodies what you do. I think I'd be remiss if I just didn't bring up my involvement in the Blueprint for Safety initiative that our city and the entire criminal justice system stepped into a number of years ago. In fact, there's people from the St. Paul Intervention Project here today. For those that don't know, this was a domestic program where we looked at different factors and threat assessments all through the entire criminal justice system from beginning to end, and then looked for the best practices for every different group, which of course the police are a part of, to bring protection and justice for victims of domestic violence. For those that don't know, your average in the United States is most homicides in most jurisdictions have averaged anywhere from 33 to 50% have some domestic nexus to it. We were dealing with problems like that in our city, and we worked collectively. And my role was to train the entire police department. I was asked to come in. We were originally going to make an approach that was pretty much order-driven. We kind of do that a lot in police work. We have uniforms, they have chevrons and things on them, so we can order people to do stuff. But that doesn't create the great belief, and that's really where I came in, to kind of be a leader and create the belief that our workforce really wanted to have so that they could really embrace this process. Certainly didn't do it alone, like all great things. It was never a one-person show, but I'm proud to say that for the 18 months after we first implemented that, we had 0 domestic assault murders in this city, and it's something that we continue to work on, we train at. In fact, we'll be talking to Saudi Arabia later today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We started with you.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Our next question is this. St. Paul, and before I go to it, I'll just remind you, there are barcodes on your paper if you want to submit a question. There is someone with a, who's passing note cards? John is in the back with note cards. If you want to submit a question in writing, just wave your hand and we'll get a note card to you so you can submit a question in writing. St. Paul has spent the last 2 years at the intersection of a national surge in violent crime that makes us all feel less safe, and a strong demand for a new style of policing since the murder of George Floyd in particular. How would you balance these sometimes competing demands and constituencies as chief? And we'll start with you, Commander Berrien.
Sure. I'm going to quote Sir Robert Peel, who is the father of modern policing, that says that the only authority that we have as a police department is what the public, our citizens, give to us. And in that premise means that we have to work in partnership. We have to make sure that we are listening to each other. We have to make sure that our voices are being heard and that we can come back to a common ground. We all have different expectations. We all have different wants and needs, but we all want to have a safe community. We all want our juveniles to thrive. We all want our businesses to thrive. So by having that, I think we need to make sure that we're having those conversations. We are very fortunate in our department that we do really good things. And one of the things that we have continued for the last 21 years is to have an agreement with the NAACP that we just signed, again, an agreement saying that we are open to have those conversations. Not every department can do that. Not every department is open to do that. But St. Paul is, because we know that we don't have all the answers. We know that we cannot have them by ourselves. We cannot be in that silo because we serve you, and by listening to you, we can serve you better. When we make a mistake, we're gonna own it. If I'm your chief, I will own that mistake, and I will listen to you so we can get better. I will make sure that our officers get the training and the support they need from everything that the community expects from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bailey Davis?
As I said yesterday, I would be actually remiss to not talk about the depraved heart murder of Mr. George Floyd and how, as a whole, Black and indigenous people of color have not always been afforded the protections of police. So in this instance, when you talk about balancing the demands, for so long, police have had opportunities to independently police themselves, to have their independent oversight. So I would actually have to defer to the public administration approach, which is the political approach for this particular situation. In that, one, there should always be representation from all community members in which all of their voices are heard, which they are heard, respected, and valued, also and included. And the second step would be the responsiveness. Once the community tells you what their will is, we have to indulge and promote the will of the people. And then lastly, in doing so, we have to be held accountable. This is not the first time this incident has happened, whether it's with George Floyd or other situations. Police officers are here to protect the communities. I know they love the communities because I work with officers every day and we love our communities. We don't always get it right, but as a leader, you have to stand in the face of the depravity and call it out for what it is. And in that instance, I will tell you that we will never have peace unless we know that all lives matter, including the Black ones.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Murphy.
So I think the really important thing to remember is kind of what I hit on earlier. Law enforcement does not have all the answers. And historically, I think that we've tried to wear so many different hats that we didn't do everything as well as we could have. So one thing that I think we've really done a lot better since the tragic death of George Floyd is working better with others. The partnerships that we've created, the mayor says this a lot, the city is an enterprise, and we've done a lot better at working together. We saw with the civil unrest that followed back in 2020 that we just couldn't do it by ourselves. We needed the partnerships from everyone in the city, the county, our mutual aid partners with other police departments, the community. We couldn't do it alone. And historically, we'd been able to handle the problems that we were faced really by ourselves in our own little silo, and having to expand and bring in all those other partners is something we thought we were doing really well prior to 2020. But what I can tell you is we've taken it to an entirely different level, and that's something that I want to take and continue to move forward. Those strong partnerships are what makes all the difference. Really coming to the table and listening to what people have to say and hearing outside the box ideas that we may never have even thought of is what's really going to continue to move our department forward and keep us at the forefront of law enforcement. And we are really one of the forward-thinking departments in the country. Folks come to us to look at how things are going and really to see what they can do better. So that's something that I want to take and move forward as the next chief.
Commander Henry.
Well, you know, as the question says, we're talking about these two issues and how the chief, the next chief, will deal with these as potential competing issues with the surge in violent crime and the public's desire for a new way or a different way of policing. And I actually don't think those concepts are competing at all. I actually think that the solution for the violent surge in crime is the new way, and that they actually, the two things complement themselves. We get that by having the cooperations with all the different entities that we've spoken about up here already, about having partnerships with both groups within the city and outside the city to work to solve problems. I'm one of three commanders that currently run our Aspire program, which is a subset underneath of Project Peace for the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And there's been folks that have criticized it saying, oh, you guys are putting all these feel-good solutions out front and then you don't really have this strong, robust enforcement piece that we really think we need. And that just isn't accurate. We're out there trying to make prevention our priority, intervention our silver medal, I always like to say. And if we have to get to enforcement, that means that something's already happened. And so really the best we get out of enforcement is a bronze medal. That doesn't mean we're not willing to do it. It doesn't mean that we're weak on crime. We just don't want to create systems that beat up neighborhoods and beat up individuals and beat up communities so they feel like we're coming in as an occupying force. We're being very direct and intentional about that. Those are actual real applications, and we're seeing how those are already starting to play out. Our people want to be solution makers. They want to be involved in this. These are not issues where we're going to have to compel our workforce, but they need leadership they know and that they trust, that to take them to the places we have to go to be successful in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Senior Commander Halstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's good and bad for going last on when you get asked these questions. I agree with every statement that's been made up here. The fortunate part for me, I am out in the field doing the job with the officers every opportunity I can. I attend many community meetings on the east side and all over the city for that matter. And the underlying thing that I've heard over and over again is, though we don't want to do things the way we've been doing them, there's no parts of our community that wants to tolerate or even condone any semblance of violent crime. Our communities are tired, they're scared. Perception is reality, though, Assistant Murphy and everybody has talked about how the violent crime trends, seem to have plateaued and are on their way down, but that's not the perception, and perception is reality. The system that we currently have, the priority for me is going to make sure that everybody has a voice, that we treat everybody with dignity and with respect. We need to build and continue to build upon the relationships that we already have. If we're out in the community and we're listening to what the community is saying, they're going to tell us who the victims are or who the next victim is potentially going to be. They're going to tell us who the potential, offender is going to be. If we listen to the community, they'll give us the answers. At the same time, they're also going to tell us where we are going astray. They're going to tell us that we don't like that policy or action that you're taking, and we want you to correct it. We need to listen and partner with our community.
Thank you very much. The next question will start with Dr. Bailey Davis. The question is, as police chief, what will you do to support the health and wellness of our officers?
The health and wellness of our officers. I can tell you that as the next police chief, I believe there should always be at least a yearly evaluation of police officers. When you think about it, police officers, the application process, they have a psychological examination, physical agility examinations, and after that, usually it's nothing. There has to be follow-up and follow-through to make sure that these officers are fit for duty and that they are holistically healthy. So one of the things that I have done personally is utilize personal funds to provide mental health first aid training for police officers and supervisors, and to ensure that they can be trainers with the community members as well as the fellow officers who are not able to get the training. So I think that's an important initiative, because at the end of the day, everyone thinks we're superheroes and that nothing bothers us. I mean, whether it's the rhetoric of defund the police or just having to be taxed because of instances in other jurisdictions, at the end of the day, we all have to feel that pressure. And so for me as a leader, I am wholeheartedly concerned about the individuals that work with me and for me. I tell them, I'm one and the same, I'm with you, I'm out on those front lines with you. So for me, I think it's making sure that there's a comprehensive program for officers to be mentally healthy and physically fit for not only the community, but for themselves and their own family. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Murphy.
This job is hard. Our cops out there, the frontline officers that are going call to call, tragedy to tragedy, seeing people in crisis, dealing with the frontline calls, it's hard. And I think it's our job as the folks in our positions to be able to support them, to help them to know that what they do matters. And I think that coming from the entire community, when we have safe summer nights and different events where our officers get to see folks in a different light, those fun events that we like to call them, that matters. People coming up to them and saying, thank you for what you do, that stuff matters. Right now our staffing levels are low. We're about 65 officers below what we should be. So our officers are working a ton. Being able to support them and give them the tools that they need to be successful is really important. A couple of things that we're doing, we have an employee assistance program that's a very robust program to really help them and their families have the support they need. We're adding an app to that. We have a very young group of officers, and they're very tech savvy, always on their phones, so being able to meet them where they're at is important. So that's something we're adding. We just started up a job shadowing program to allow our officers that work that frontline patrol to be able to get off of the street for a period of time and see the other opportunities available in the department. Although we have had to reduce some of the number of people that are in those spots, being able to give them that break from the street and really come back with a breath of fresh air is important. So those are the types of things that I think are important to support the wellness of our officers.
Commander Henry?
Well, of course, this is paramount to the success of anything we do, because happy, productive, stable employees are obviously going to have a better work product out there in the field. We have very good resources here in St. Paul. We have programs and we have a gym that allow people to work out, to make sure they can stay physically in shape. We have to model that behavior for our employees, but more importantly, we have to give them the time and the space to actually utilize them. If the call load is too busy or we're too short-staffed, that gym then becomes a beacon of something they just can't participate in, and it actually becomes a frustration point as opposed to a perk. So we have to create situations where our folks can actually avail themselves of the programs that we have. We have some robust systems already in place in regards to, as they've already been spoken about yearly checks for psychological issues and those types of things. But the key is that we have to make it possible. We have to, going forward, we are not going to get back to the full staffing numbers right away. We are not going to get to some dream figure right away. So our greatest resource is going to have to be our resourcefulness. And part of that is going to have to be that we're going to have to create experiences and opportunities for our officers to actually be plugged in and be made to feel like we actually want them to do these things, that they're not cheating or not taking the call. We have a great police department, and there are officers in this room that you'll get a chance to talk to afterwards, but they will work themselves to death for our public and for our community if we let them. They are their own worst enemy. So we as leadership have to get out in front and make sure that we create environments where they can be successful, where they can feel like they can actually avail themselves of these healthy things, and that's one of the most paramount things a chief can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Senior Commander Halstrom.
Thank you. I think some of the most important aspects of working towards mentally healthy officers is being proactive and intentional in our actions, proactive and intentional in some of the systems that, early warning systems that we can use to identify potential problems down the road, and then normalizing the conversations. It's okay to not be okay is something that I think needs to be, pushed. And acknowledging that the things that officers see on a daily basis, it's not normal. Not everybody sees the things or hears the things or experiences the things that officers see and hear. It changes an officer. It leaves a piece of them behind everywhere they go, and we need to intentionally to build back that part of that officer's life. And it's come a long ways. In my career, when I started, it was, hey kid, swallow that down, and and unfortunately, a lot of officers turn to other vices in order to deal with that stress and that, the changes that were made in them. But having the systems and the procedures in place, we do a very good job of it here. Chief Axel, instituted some routine and regular check-ins and policies, and we have a very robust employee assistance program that I have the utmost faith in. We also have really, really good leaders with the department, relying upon our leaders to know our officers on a personal basis. One thing I've learned is don't turn everybody into me.
Commander Berrigan.
Yes, Mayor. Like everybody has said before me, we have already in our city processes that have been helping an officers to overcome any kind of trauma. We're talking about yearly checks, making sure that they're healthy, mentally and emotionally healthy. But we can do more. Of course, as humans, we change, we develop. We need to make sure that we are listening to our officers to see what is that they need. I can tell you what I think they need, but that doesn't really mean that that's a reality. That's in my perception. So I would like to open opportunities for our officers to be able to have a voice in what is that else that they need to be supported, to feel supported. In addition to that, we need to include our families. We need to support their families, because if you're not good at home, you're not going to be that best officer in patrol or on the streets. So we want to have those conversations. How well we can support your families? How can we support your support system? Because some of our officers we have, they come from other states, they come from other countries, and they don't have a family support, but they have friends that they are here. So for me, it's a holistic approach. It has to be your mind, your body, your soul that needs to be nourished, that needs to be stronger, so you can produce, so you can thrive, so you can feel that you actually belong in this police department. The officers like being in the police department, like our officers like our police department, and we have to cap on that. Our employees are the best asset that we have in our police department, and we don't want them to leave police work damaged. We don't want them, when they retire for whatever reason, they could not have a healthy life anymore. And that is my obligation and my responsibility as your chief to make sure that you thrive after you retire.
Thank you very much. This is the part where we phone a friend. We've got a question that came on a note card that was magically zapped to my device here. And the question is, what does success look like? And we're starting with you, Assistant Chief Murphy. What does success look like when it comes to civilian oversight of our police department?
So that's a great question. So our civilian oversight, our PCR, the Police Civilian Internal Affairs Review Commission, very long, like I said before, we love our acronyms in law enforcement, is very important. They really are the voice of the community. They are the ones that tell us where our expectations should be. And I think it's really important that we, again, partner with them just like we do everyone else. Being able to listen to the input and the feedback that they have. Part of their role as our PCR is really to look at when our officers do something wrong. When we have a complaint that comes in, our internal affairs looks at the complaint, and then that finding goes to the PCR. They have a lot of really good feedback on things like policies and procedures and things that we can do better. So I think that it's our responsibility to really listen to that and take that in, so that we can do better moving forward, because the goal is to change behavior and make sure our cops want to do the right thing, and listening to that feedback is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Commander Henry.
Well, as was stated, this part of the process is crucial to our success. I think we can all kind of harken back to our days in grade school, and we remember those days when you had the spelling bee or whatever, and you would slide your paper over, and the teacher would say, go ahead and correct your own paper. And we know somehow magically, maybe sometimes a couple of the words that were spelled wrong ended up being right if you got to do that yourself. We need a process where someone looks in and doesn't allow us just to correct our own paper, not because we're going to cheat on the answers, but because there's the potential for that. And so we want to make sure that our public knows that we would never do that, and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in that way and to be honest and accountable in that way. And that's very important. What success looks like in that process is that the public actually understands, participates in, and that's one of our big issues with PCR, because oftentimes we're looking for people to be involved in it. In that process, our administration has a good back and forth with PCR, and so they're able to make sure that the decisions that get pulled out of those incidents that are reviewed are handled in the right possible way. And the gold standard really is that our officers understand the process and believe that it's a fair process that they're being exposed to.
Thank you. Senior Commander Halstrom.
Thank you. I think the PCR is important to provide feedback to the community and the transparency and explanations, of what we do and why we do it. I think for far too long, the profession has sort of acted and existed behind a curtain, and society expects more. And not only that, but the PCR is external eyes that aren't affiliated with the police department, looking at the actions and things that our officers do. I believe that it's a fair process. I think the officers believe that it's a fair process, and as Commander Henry said, their belief in a system is crucially important. It supplies accountability to the police department and legitimacy for us into the community, that we are responsive and we're doing things in the community that the community agrees with. I have to say that I have, as a senior commander of a district, I am sometimes responsible for, sending things to the PCR for review, and they often come back with the same, but oftentimes in support of the officers where I might have seen correction.
Thank you. Commander Berrigan.
So to me, it's checks and balances. We need to make sure, and we all need that. We need to be accountable to each other. I'm accountable to you and you're accountable to me. That's a true partnership. When we are open to people to see what are we doing, what are our processes, and when internally we are open and humble to see our processes working. Is there something in our processes that need to be changed and they to be altered, or are we missing a mark in something that we are just not looking at? That's why I keep saying that it's very important to have different voices at the table, sometimes voices that are opposed to what I believe, because those will be my blind spots. And I want people to teach me and point out what are my blind spots. Otherwise, we're always going to be blind. So success for me in this area is when the community actually legitimize what our police efforts are. Doesn't matter what kind of program, it doesn't matter what we're doing. When the community says, you know what, I trust the St. Paul Police Department 100%. They're not perfect, but they're doing their best.
Dr. Bailey Davis.
Thank you. Sorry, Mayor. First of all, for success, there has to be an authentic collaboration between the police and these oversight boards, and not simply smoke and mirrors. Secondly, there must be a mutual say and accountability between the police and the Oversight Commission. There should also be an inclusion where the Oversight Committee can be a part of the development and implementation of new policies and or procedures. Also, the Police Oversight Commission boards should have a voice, and as they are the voice of the actual people, we should not handcuff and or arrest these boards, as they are the keepers for the community. They are the ones who are responsible for ensuring that the will of the people, that their needs are being responded to. I can certainly tell you that in completing my dissertation on an analysis of complaints against police in Philadelphia, a case for social equity and collaborative governance and police reform, that was more empowering for me, because it shows that we should be proactive in correcting our efforts, and that we should also reflects that police are not objective enough to independently hold themselves accountable. That's why it's important, it's needed for the success.
Thank you very much. Our second question, and we're starting again with you, Commander Henry, from community members, is how do diversion programs fit into your plan to help create community healing and building relationships?
Sorry, I just wanted to get the question written down. Well, I mean, I think they fit in directly with everything we do. We're right now, we're really trying to build a department and build an entire actually city workforce, not just the police department, that really is responsive to and reflective of our city itself. And we want to bring in folks from our neighborhoods. That's not to suggest that if you weren't born and raised in St. Paul, you can't be a successful employee, but we need to reimagine what it looks like to bring folks on board. We have great programs, we've talked about a little of them here, LECPA and other things, but we've got to look at those processes and try to figure out ways in which we can remove barriers. One of the frustrating points it is with the law enforcement field is that this is a minimum of a 2-year degree field. You have to be post-certified to get it, whereas I can get you onboarded very quickly as a parks worker. We're working right now with programs to get kids commercial driver's licenses, because those are in essence really licenses to make money. We can get them on board with the city as city employees, but that's tough to do with law enforcement. So we've got to create new pathways that identify, work with our community, what those barriers are, and then how we remove them.
Thank you. Senior Commander Halstrom.
Diversion programs, that's not something that typically law enforcement is involved with. You know, that's usually something that's handled by the city attorney's office, and after the fact that we have made an arrest for somebody. I believe there's a huge opportunity for us to be participative in that process. You know, currently we have a work group that we meet once a month, and we talk about individuals that have frequent contacts with law enforcement, and we work with the city and county attorneys and look at different types of paths that they can go down. You know, whether it's anger management, whether it's chemical dependency court. So there's a whole plethora, and plus diversion programs provide a healing sense back to the community that I think the police department can really play a big part in. But it's just not something that's traditionally been on our plates.
Thank you. Commander Bergen.
Diversion programs. When I work as a sergeant in the juvenile unit, I will go to different areas after we had a juvenile, and that juvenile did not belong in jail. That juvenile had to be through other kind of programs. And we will go on, we will meet with the parents, we will meet with the support system and see, okay, what can the city can do for this juvenile? And we have a lot of successes because then we were able to kind of cut the cycle of crime in that family sometimes because they just needed resources. Sometimes crime happens because there's a lack of resource, there's a lack of knowledge. And being able to have this diversion programs give the kids an opportunity. Yesterday I talked about having hope for our juveniles. We need to give that hope to the juveniles so they feel that they belong, they feel that they can thrive, they feel that they have opportunities. Sometimes as adults we think we have all the answers, but we don't. There's a lot of resources that we have that we need to make available to the families. They have a lot of one single parent families. We have a lot of problems that the kids have to solve themselves. Sometimes they just have to grow by themselves because there's not that support system. So if we have a juvenile that is in the pipeline to be going to jail and we are able to stop that, we as a collective have that responsibility, and we as a police department as a piece of the puzzle to help with other divisions within the city.
Dr. Bailey Davis.
I would say with regard to the diversion programs, I think there should be not only an understanding of the programs, but there should be an education on the programs. Most people don't understand that there are sections of particular groups that are truly impacted and being disproportionately impacted by, let's say, the prison system. So you have authors such as Dr. Michelle Alexander, who talks about the prison pipeline and mass incarceration. I know where I am from in Philadelphia, we have systems in place to dismantle this school-to-prison pipeline. I find I'm on a board of the Pennsylvania Bar Association. I do mock trials with students. Also, we do youth courts, and that's very helpful in a diversion program because you have students in school, they may engage in violations, and instead of sending them through a system, through a criminal justice system or some other diversion program, we actually allow the kids to decide what the punishment should be for their peers. And it's an excellent program because it helps them to be responsible for themselves so they can divert themselves. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Assistant Chief Murphy.
Oftentimes when we think of crime, we think of violent crime. Well, the fact is violent crime is committed by a very small number of people. A lot of what we're talking about, especially when you're talking diversion, is lower level crimes. So things like first-time shoplifters, graffiti, criminal damage to property, those types of things. And a lot of that's committed by kids. Our young people, our youth out there, that really what they need is a change in behavior. And oftentimes what these diversion programs do, and they do really well, is help change the behavior, provide them tools for long-term success, provide not just them, but their family and their support system, the tools and the resources to be able to do something different, to be better, to be good members of, productive members of society. And that's really where the success of these diversion programs come from. And Kurt Halstrom said this, we do play a role in that in law enforcement. There are aspects of these diversion programs that we fit into as mentors and a variety of different ways that we can help. When kids can see that officers are a positive role model, that's really important and a big part of these diversion programs.
Fantastic. Thank you. I know we have a number of our downtown leaders and business leaders in the space. This is a question we're getting from community as well. We are still working to bring folks back to their office after the pandemic. One of the things employees hear from their workers is their concern about crime and public safety, and in some ways, as has been acknowledged, that don't always necessarily track the actual data, but the perceptions become reality for us. What will you do as chief to inspire confidence and help us to continue to build our momentum in downtown St. Paul? We'll start with you, Senior Commander Halstrom.
That's an intense question. I come down downtown every Tuesday and Thursday with 21 Days of Peace and see some of the things that are occurring in our downtown area. And perception is reality. I acknowledge that, and we just need to, be present and bring the community along with us. That's one of the things that I can say that, when I'm down there with the 21 Days of Peace, I believe that they are modeling the behavior in which they seek in others. This is not just a police issue that we're going to be able to, be present all over the place. We need to educate our communities as to, how to engage and what, how to be safe. I often tell the community members, if you trust the hairs on the back of your neck and trust your instincts, you can prevent yourself from becoming a victim of crime. So educating people, but not instilling fear in their abilities to excel, enjoy time downtown, be profitable in their business, are all aspects of things that the police department plays a role in, and just be supportive of the business community.
Makes sense. Commander?
Yes, Mayor. Well, I used to work the downtown. I was the supervisor in the afternoon for downtown beat. And we walk around and we make sure that the kids were busy, right, doing things, making sure that the community felt safe. But the perception, like everybody has said, is reality. Currently, we think that downtown is bad, and we know that it's not. People are coming back. There's a lot of efforts from the business area, from the community area, to make sure that the community knows, and we're talking about people that come just to work here, or they come to worship, or they come to do grocery shopping. They might go just because it's convenient, right? So we have to make sure that the people feel safe, and the only way we can do that is by being present, by making sure that we are opening spaces for people to come and volunteer. If we want to change something, we need to improve our volunteering, improve our participation. Why not open a rec center in downtown, where our kids in Fifth and Minnesota have a place to hang out with positive things to do, playing basketball, doing other stuff. We do that in other neighborhoods. Why not this in downtown? It's not impossible. So bringing those kind of ideas, bringing those people to the table that can have that positive impact in the kids and in their families will be one of my efforts.
Dr. Bailey Davis.
I think messaging is a really important point here, because people have to be aware of what's happening. So whether you utilize the messaging through social media or through, we have Rome Security Alert Networks, where people actually get alerts on their telephone. So if they're leaving work or something's happening, that they can actually have real-time information. Also, I believe that whole community approach is important, with everyone being aware and everyone being active in the public safety in downtown. Also, with regard to, I know most downtowns actually have like shuttle services and escorts, and also buddy systems. I mean, they don't just work on college campuses, they work everywhere. So that's actually important. But I also think too, with regard to the technology, what's important is the setups of safe cams at the local businesses. So at night, we can watch what's going on. We can actually utilize mapping and analysis to actually pinpoint the areas that we're having problems in and identify the concerns, and then actually message that out to the community.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Murphy.
Having a thriving downtown area that people feel safe to come to is super important for our city. The downtown area is a reflection of the broader city of St. Paul, so it's really important that people feel safe and comfortable and come here to enjoy all of the wonderful things, whether it's a Saints game or a Wild game or heading to one of our bars downtown. It's really important that people feel safe that they can do that. One of the things I think is really important is being able to partner with all of our different businesses that work downtown, that are parts of our community. We have a SHIELD program that we're just about to launch, which is an information sharing platform. It's a way for us to provide information, which is something we heard loud and clear the last couple of years, provide information to our downtown businesses, but also to get information back from them. It's a platform that I think will be very helpful. The other thing that is on my wish list of things to do would be to create a real-time crime center that we could work hand in hand with the Downtown Alliance to be able to leverage the security, the cameras, all of the different things that we have downtown to provide a safer community downtown and a feeling that it's safe. Thank you.
Commander Henry.
You know, this question reminded me of something my sister said to me when she was living in New York and she came back here for the week. And she said she actually felt safer walking at 2 o'clock in the morning in New York City than she did walking down Grand Avenue. And the reason is because the stores were always open, the bodegas were always open, and there are always people walking around. I mean, I think the key to the problems we've had downtown are the fact that, first and foremost, we have to redefine that space and get folks back down there that are using it for exactly what it's for. the issue there, of course, is that we've had that same problem for a very, very long time, and it doesn't seem like whatever we do, we're invested in it at the level that has to actually fix it long term. We've actually got to look at some solutions. I like a lot of the things that were said here. I think I would lean more towards maybe if we're going to have a crime center like what the Assistant Chief spoke of, maybe we house that right in the downtown area at that space. But we've got to recommit to that area. Prevention, intervention, and enforcement we know works, but it doesn't work if it's not sustained, it's not lasting, and we don't commit to it 100%. We have the best partnerships probably in anywhere in the city and downtown, and we need to utilize those.
Thank you very much. We'll start our next question with Commander Berrigan. And the question is, how do you envision the ideal relationship between the St. Paul Police Department and our newly created Office of Neighborhood Safety?
I'm writing it outside of.
No problem. How do you envision the ideal relationship between our St. Paul Police Department and our newly created Office of Neighborhood Safety?
To me, it's the holistic approach. We're making sure that all the voices are being heard by having the Aspire program, which is a little portion of the PEACE program that is housed under the Officer of Public Safety. It's a perfect example of what we can do when we work together, when we talk, and when we focus that we have the same commonality in getting a result. So by having that program, we can use that and evaluate it, figure out what worked, what didn't work, and what we can replicate in other portions of the city, what we can do with other agencies within the city. So we don't oppose each other, we're not in conflict, we are not fighting for funding or things like that. To me, is we're working together, we're communicating, we have the same goal and the same expectations from each other. We respect, because we all have a line, our own lane to work on our missions, but those missions are not in opposed. So for me, that is what I said, Aspire and Project Peace is just one of the examples, the first one that we can really learn from and move forward and then transport that to other places in the city.
Absolutely. Dr. Bailey Davis.
One of the things I would look at is the whole community approach, where we all actually come together and in the full capacity of our resources that we have available to us. Also, anytime I address an issue, I always utilize my own personalized model. It's an ABC model. A is authentic discourse and engagement, where there has to be real and honest discourse about the actual problem. Then B, once you actually know what the problem is, you're able to identify the behavior modifications, behaviors that need to change so that you can actually accomplish your goal. And then C, the collaborative governance approach, which ensures that we all work together to resolve a problem that cannot be solved independently. So in this collaboration between St. Paul and the neighborhood safety unit here, we have to also look at where the gaps are in the processes. We have to look at if there's any waste. That's important, and we also have to look at what are the impediments to us keeping our community members safe and our police officers safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Murphy.
So the Office of Neighborhood Safety to us has been fantastic. It's allowed us to take things off of our plate that historically law enforcement has had to do that really isn't in our wheelhouse. Brooke Blakey, the director of the Office of Neighborhood Safety, came from law enforcement, so she understands how we work and how we do things. And there's a number of times where she'll call me up and say, hey, I just heard this happened, or I'll call her up and say, what kind of resources can you get to this family? And that kind of interaction and that kind of partnership is irreplaceable. It's something that really is going to help do what I had talked about before of changing behavior. We don't need to, we literally cannot arrest our way out of the problems that we're seeing in society. We need to be able to find folks other resources and other ways to do things, and that's really what the Office of Neighborhood Safety is doing for our community, and I think that's what's going to make the difference, and that's how I see it as successful.
Thank you. Commander Halstrom.
I think I'm fortunate in that I actually work directly with the Office of Neighborhood Safety as one of the commanders for Aspire. So I've gotten to see this evolve and grow in real time. And I don't think we've really fully realized how important, how impactful this is going to be. But I think really how I envision that relationship is that for a long time, law enforcement has been like this big blue cable or rope of safety line that we throw out to people. And really the way the city is starting to look at things and the way we are starting to realize are the better way to do it is to take that safety line and make it a part of an overall safety net. And that's the fire department, the libraries, parks and recs, and the Office of Neighborhood Safety I really see as kind of a gatekeeper or kind of an organizer for those processes to make sure that when we have someone that gets introduced into the city system, whether it's through a crime, or whether it's through a need, or whether it's through some service that they require, that our city really should end up being the safety net that when it catches you, it says, this is not a criminal issue, but we have a resource. This is maybe not this kind of issue, but we have a resource. And it's an overall holistic way for us to deal and work together as an entire city.
Thank you. Senior Commander Halstrom.
Thank you. I personally, have had direct interactions and engagement with the Office of Neighborhood Safety Director Blakey, and I'm excited at the idea that not every problem is a nail, and the police department is the hammer with this our problems that we're facing in society. I have experienced this firsthand. There are things that are beyond the immediate event that drew our attention to a situation. I was at a Safe Summer Nights, and these two girls just started fighting. I was literally standing right there, and they just started fighting right in front of me. And neither one of them needed to go to jail, but they needed resources. And the police department has not traditionally been a location that we can direct and delve out those resources. I think that the Department of Neighborhood Safety is going to fit and do a fantastic job in helping us find the resources beyond arrest that we typically have responded to society's problems with.
Thank you very much. I have told you that what you would see today is that we have 5 really incredible candidates who are finalists to be the police chief of St. Paul. I'm confident that you are seeing that. We have heard from all of them the extent to which teamwork is really important. And let me tell you, that is something that I definitely agree with, that resonates with me, and that I benefit from. Incredible teamwork from incredible partners. We have one more question for our finalists. It'll be a lightning round, and then we'll ask them for final just closing statements. And then, like I said, they've all said they'd be willing to be available for some time as we kind of close and move towards the exit. But as we do that, I would be remiss if I did not introduce you in this space to our city's deputy mayor, Jamie Tincher. Thank you, please. To members of our cabinet who are in the room, I see our city attorney, Lindsay Olson, in the room, in the corner. Thank you for being here. I see, mentioned before, our interim police chief, Jeremy Ellison, who's in the room. Thank you for your service, sir. We just got done with a question about our Office of Neighborhood Safety. I see Office of Neighborhood Safety Director Brooke Blakey in the room. Thank you for your work. I also see our leader, our president of our St. Paul Downtown Alliance, who has worked very heavily on the question around downtowns, and I suspect that question may have come from you. Joe Spencer, who's in the room, thank you for being here. And if you like this amazing building that we're in, I hope you've been here before. If not, I hope you come back here. We really appreciate the partnership that we have with our St. Paul Port Authority. I see our St. Paul Port Authority President and CEO, Todd Hurley, in the room. Thank you for your partnership. And then as a final acknowledgement, and literally every person in this room could be acknowledged, but I also should thank, as I heard a reference to our St. Paul Intervention Program that works really closely to make sure that our survivors of domestic violence in our community have the support and the resources that they need. Shelley Klein, it's great to see you here. Thank you so much for being here. And as I said, the final one, I have a final one, and I just saw her in the room as well. I acknowledged at the beginning the examining committee that worked really hard to help get us to this incredible problem that we have to face over these next couple of weeks. I see one of our co-chairs in this space, Sasha Cotton. Thank you for your service. Would you please raise your hand? And if there's anybody else in the room who served on that examining committee, would you raise your hand so we can give you your due round of applause? Thank you all. I'm going off script. I'm not authorized to do this, so I'm excited. I'm going to change the direction of the flow of the question for these last two things. The first one is a lightning round. We'll start with you, Dr. Bailey Davis, and I'd like just a quick reflection for all of our audience on something you love about this city.
I absolutely positively love the progressiveness of the city, the positivity of this city, the forward thinking of this city, especially with regard to social equity. I think it's amazing. I'm looking forward, hopefully, to work with everyone to ensure that we continue those efforts, especially with financial empowerment. I can tell you that as a poor kid from the projects who's used to being counted out, that I can be counted on due to the fact that I've been surrounded by people such as people like in the St. Paul community. And I think that's actually needed. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to a change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commander Bergen.
Sure. St. Paul, I love St. Paul. I love St. Paul because it's inclusive. I love St. Paul because it's progressive. I love St. Paul because it's my home. Over 114 languages are spoken in the school district, and every voice counts. Every voice has a place in the city. Doesn't matter if you were born here or you came from somewhere else. You belong here, and that is why our city thrives, and that's why I'm excited to become your chief. So thank you.
Thank you. Senior Commander Halstrom.
I love St. Paul for the diversity and the small town feel of a big city. I believe that the answers to all of our problems are found in the city. The community always comes together to collaborate and raise up the standard for what government service looks like. We are the standard, in my opinion, for public service, especially for the police department. Many agencies around the state, around the country have adopted the things and the changes that have already been made at the St. Paul Police Department, and I'm just very, very proud of the city as a whole.
Commander Henry.
Well, as a person who was born and raised and lives here, I couldn't agree more with everything that was just said, but I think if I had to narrow it down to just one word or one concept, it's potential. What I love about St. Paul is I don't feel like this city ever really accepts limitations or kind of takes or has an attitude that they will allow people to say, yeah, but the excuses just aren't taken here. We really have a potential to do things. We see opportunities, we seize those opportunities, and we come together and work when it really, really matters. You know, we talk about a lot of the problems we're dealing with right now, but that's why I'm so optimistic, is I think that's what's going to actually coalesce us and pull us together and actually deal with real long-term solutions. We have officers that join our department. When they walk in the door, they literally believe they can change the world. And I want to be a leader at our police department that reminds them of that every day, make sure that they never lose sight of that, and that we actually go out in the community and make us all realize that's possible for every one of us.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Murphy.
I am going to echo what Kurt said, the rich diversity of St. Paul. You don't have to go far to find a different neighborhood, authentic food that you may love, an event, whether it's the Hmong New Year, the Twin Cities Marathon that we just had. No matter what it is, there's something here for everyone, and that rich diversity and just ability to see different cultures and experience different things, that's what I love about this city. And Kurt said it very well when he said this is a big city with a small town feel. It really makes everyone feel at home when you come here, whether you live, work, or visit the city, and that's what I love about it.
Thank you very much. And for a final, just ask you all for a brief closing statement for the audience before we go into our breakout, or before we begin to make our way towards the door. We'll start with you, Commander Bergen.
Sure. As a closing statement, I am your servant. I have a servant heart. I will serve my officers with integrity and commitment, with compassion, and I will expect for them to serve you, the citizens and the residents of our city, in the same way. We belong together. This is not a problem. This is a place where we all can thrive. This is your police department, this is our police department, and we can only be moving forward if we work together. So, thank you.
Senior Commander Halstrom.
Can I get the question one more time?
Yes, wait a minute.
I had a moment.
It's just a closing statement, but
Closing
actually,
statement. Oh boy.
it's okay. You know what? I reversed the order and then I re-reversed the order. So I'm going to re-reverse the order and go to Dr. Bailey Davis, and then we'll come back to you, Senior Commander Halstrom.
Okay. Thank you. I have told you that I'm a committed servant and transformational leader, and I can certainly tell you that driving around the city and meeting individuals in different neighborhoods here, that St. Paul has done a great job in this city. The police department, you have done a great job, and I commend you. However, I do know that there's a segment of the community that feels excluded, and that we must address that issue and we must correct that issue. I can also say that there's a reason why doctors don't operate on their family members, because there's no objective view. So as the chief, I'm here, and as I reflect on my own life of being excluded in those projects, I'm here to give that objective view, to be here not only for the community, but to also be here for the police officers. Nobody loves their officers like me. Although I love everybody, I love the cops because I know that we are the individuals responsible for taking care of our own. One of my mottos is, stay one, stay safe, and we all have to be brother and sisters keepers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I up now?
Yes.
First of all,
I
I
honestly
wanted
don't
to say, whoa, thank you, doctor, for bailing me out there. One, I just feel really, really humbled to be part of the process here today, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your days to come here and listen to what we had to say. It's crucially important. We are your police department at the city of St. Paul. I'm very proud of the officers that put the uniform on every day. A really good friend of mine says, we're better together. There's no winners or losers in this game, and that's the mentality that I would bring to the police department is that we need officers to feel empowered to try to make our neighborhoods safe and healthy for all.
Thank you. Commander Henry.
Appreciate the opportunity. Again, I think, what everyone has said here is 100% true. Our workforce doesn't need radical change. They're not looking to have to be redirected or pushed around, but they are looking to be led and they're looking to be inspired. And that's really where I think that I want to spend my energy in my last few seconds here is this isn't about me. It's about really where I think we have the potential to go. I used that word potential very intentionally earlier. There's a famous quote from Margaret Mead that says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world." Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And if you think about the population of the United States being 330 million people, that means here in St. Paul, we represent about 0.1% of the entire population. We are that small committed group. We can literally change the world here. Our people want to do noble, inspiring work, and we can come together as a community. We can create that as a reality for the entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Murphy.
I have been very blessed in my career. I've had a lot of opportunities and experiences that have gotten me to the point that I'm at today. We all are up here because of the hard work and the foundation that's been laid by the chiefs and the officers that work in our department and have come before us. We have officers today that work really, really hard. They have good hearts, they're caring, they want to do the right thing, and they're working with fewer people than we've seen in a very long time. So they're working very hard for us. So what I want to do is I want to take and build upon that good foundation that we have. Again, much like Ax just said, I don't want to make any drastic changes. We have a good department. We're not perfect. We need to continue to move forward and move forward in the direction that we're moving in. That's why we're known across the country. I believe Mayor Carter even said it himself. We are the best department in the country. Not that we're at all biased, but we are the best department in the country. And so to be able to build upon that, that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to set the record straight, I didn't limit that best department to just the country. Just to be clear. Thank you all. It is an incredible honor. It is a humbling honor to be in this space to interview the five of you alongside 300,000 of my closest friends. It is an incredible honor. As we reflect on the qualifications and on the expertise of you at this table, it's also a reflection of who every one of the men and women in our St. Paul Police Department is. It's a reflection on who we are as a community, that the five of you are seeking to lead our incredible department, and I thank you for that. Would you please all join me in just thanking our candidates for standing?